Thank you for joining this FOREWARN training. I will briefly be going over what FOREWARN is, why it was created. Then I will get into all the ways you can use our system and understand the information being provided, all the ways you can use FOREWARN to benefit your real estate businesses, the do's and don'ts, and how to activate your accounts if you have not already done so. The real estate industry remains dependent on personal interactions with unknown contacts, and realtors may have zero or very minimal knowledge of the other party. FOREWARN was created specifically to address this safety issue with the goal of changing the amount of risk realtors are exposed to every day. By leveraging massive data resources, FOREWARN provides instant knowledge prior to any face-to-face engagement with an unknown contact. A great example I can give to you about how FOREWARN works is if you think about getting pulled over by a police officer. They run your license plate, they have all your information in seconds. It's a similar concept for realtors using FOREWARN. You receive a phone call or an email from a potential client, you input their name or their phone number into our system, and in seconds you receive all the information we have to provide you on that individual. As you know, real estate is one of the most vulnerable occupations, and predators are aware of this. No one else is going to show up at a vacant home alone with a random stranger. So it's not a question why agents are targeted, but according to the NAR 2020 Member Safety Report, 23% of agents reported being in a situation that did make them fear for their safety. So traditional safety products available to the real estate industry are reactive, meant to be used once a professional already finds themselves in danger. A great example of a reactive product would be iPhone users. You can press the lock button on your iPhone 4 or 5 times in a row and it will set off an SOS signal, which is great. But then it does take on average about 5 to 8 minutes for a police officer to then reach you. And unfortunately, when you're already in danger, a lot can happen in that 5 to 8 minute time frame. This is why FOREWARN is meant to be your proactive tool, something you can use ahead of meeting your potential clients and hopefully prevent yourself from entering into potentially dangerous situations with potentially harmful people. Of course, there are more than just physical risks. Are the buyers and sellers who they say they are? Have they given you false information? Does this person actually own the property they say they want to sell? And how would you know? The FBI reported real estate-related internet and cybercrime accounted for over 213 million in combined loss across more than 13,000 victims just in 2020. Any effective safety and fraud prevention protocol, it begins with proactive planning, knowing who you're working with, knowing if they're safe to be working with, and really being ahead of the predators and scammers because they too are planning ahead. Our FOREWARN system is very user-friendly and intentionally designed to be that way. It really is as simple as you receive a call, you punch in the phone number or name into our system, know who you're working with, and know if they're safe to be working with. Here I like to dive in deeper and look at the middle image on the screen. This is exactly what our FOREWARN system looks like when you activate your account and log in. The reverse phone search screen will serve as your primary screen when using our system. The box below that title is where you will input your potential client's phone number, press the red search button, then it will bring up anyone associated with that phone number. This could be one person, this could be multiple people. For the example that multiple people are accumulated when forewarning a phone number, that just means those other people may have had the phone number prior to your potential client having it, or they could possibly be a spouse or family member to your potential client as well. So just keep that in mind, but typically the person you will be searching for will be the very first or top profile on that list because most likely they will have the most recent activity using that phone number. Now, if you want to search by name instead of phone number, it's very easy. Just click the blue link here that says search by name. It will swap the screen to allow you to input the necessary information to, again, search by name. Diving in further now, if you get a no results found when forewarning a phone number, that typically means that it's a fraudulent or a spam number, a Google-generated number of some kind that isn't tied to an actual physical person. Another example would be burner phones. They are not tied to an actual physical person, so you will get that no results found. This is a yellow flag. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are bad, just be cautious if you can't find them through their phone number, because we do have over 90% of all adult phone records across the country in our system. So it is very uncommon to not find a real person by their real phone number. But of course, if this is the case, this is why we provide that alternate name search for you to use. Go ahead, swap that screen, input their name, find them that way. Now, if you cannot find your potential client by their phone number or their name, to us, this would be a red flag, and you may consider exercising higher caution. How you proceed is up to you, but you may consider, for instance, meeting the prospect in a public place, such as your brokerage office with other agents around, a coffee shop with other people around, or bringing another agent or two along with you to the appointment to help ensure your safety in those situations. Here I will go into a breakdown of everything you will see when you forewarn your potential client, when you pull up their profile, and how to read the information given. Again, use the reverse calling to verify your prospect. You input the phone number, and in seconds, you receive criminal history, financial risk, assets such as vehicles and homes owned. First is going to be phone numbers. This will show you the phone numbers that have been tied to this person since they turned 18. This does include landlines if they have ever had one attached to them, including possibly their parents' previous landline. You will be able to see those phone numbers as well. We also added deceased records. So if you forewarn a phone number and it has a deceased tag next to it, that may be your clue that whoever is calling you may be a fraudulent person. Address history, these are addresses they have received mail since turning 18. This can include a rental address, a parent's home, friend's home, P.O. box. It does not mean that they owned the property. However, property records is going to tell you the properties they have owned, past and current, and sometimes who's been on title and mortgage amounts, depending on if you're disclosure or non-disclosure state. This does vary per county, city, state, etc., but you can match these addresses with the properties the prospects say they would like to sell and help make sure that what they are telling you is truthful and honest. Criminal history, this is pretty self-explanatory, but usually criminals don't just decide on a random Tuesday to go out and commit a crime. Typically, they are career criminals with one or more offenses, and you will be able to see those convictions. Also, I like to note here, just because you see criminal history highlighted in yellow, it doesn't necessarily mean they have a felony in their background. It could be something as minor as a speeding ticket, because that will also be the section where those items are reported. So consider reviewing the criminal record information thoroughly, and I will go more in depth in this section in a few minutes. Court records, this will show you bankruptcies, liens, judgments, and foreclosures that person has in their history. So of course, this is very important when it comes to a client selling their home or financing to purchase, because as amazing as title companies and lenders are, unfortunately, they don't always catch these items right away. So you could be halfway through a transaction before these items get noticed, then everyone has a headache to deal with and most likely a delay to follow. You may consider checking for risks or any concerns that would need to be addressed ahead of entering into a transaction with the individual. If there is a risk or an item of concern that does need to be addressed, you may consider asking the appropriate questions first. Try to have the potential client be open and honest with you about what is in their history, and then proceed to address them during those conversations. However, perhaps the prospect is not being forthcoming with you about an item in their history, or possibly they have no knowledge of any risks in their background. For example, a homeowner and a landscaper got into an argument, and the landscaper proceeds to put a lien against the homeowner's property without actually telling the homeowner. The homeowner in this example would have no knowledge of the risk in their background because they would have no knowledge of the landscaper's actions. Therefore, they wouldn't tell you any further information when you're asking those appropriate questions. So in those two previous scenarios, you may then consider saying to your potential client that you obtained this information from a confidential service that bases their information on available public record information, then proceed with the necessary conversations to address the risks or items of concern. Typically, a common question is, do they know if we search them? Do they get notified in any way? The answer to this question is no. The prospect does not know you are searching them because the information you received from FOREWARN is predominantly public record information, so we are not linked to their credit and they do not get notified. Next is going to be vehicle history. So just knowing what they drive before they meet you so you know it's them upon arrival, or simply ask what they drive before meeting so you can verify it in our system and help to know the information they are telling you is truthful and honest, even with those minor details. Here, I like to stop and give recognition to your association or your MLS because if you're watching this training, most likely either your association or your MLS is providing FOREWARN complimentary to their members. So, forewarn for an individual agent or broker is typically $300 a year. So, to have your association or your MLS be providing forewarn complimentary to you, it really is an amazing benefit to have access to. You are your association and MLS's priority. They want to help keep you as safe as possible, and as do we. So, consider utilizing these complimentary accounts, help verify your potential clients' identities, and help keep yourself safe. Continuing on, this is a real life example that did happen to a realtor using FOREWARN, and I like to share the story really just to paint a big picture for you about how FOREWARN can help keep you safe and can help prevent you from entering into potentially dangerous situations with potentially harmful people. This agent was a local agent for Main Street Organization of Realtors in Illinois. She was getting ready to leave work for the day when she received a phone call from a man who she did not know, who was wanting to tour a vacant property right away. So he asked the agent if she could meet him as soon as possible to show him around the property, and the agent did agree to schedule the appointment to meet the man that evening. Luckily, though, an agent at her office overheard the conversation and asked her if she had forewarned him yet to help make sure he was safe for her to be meeting, especially alone. And at this time, forewarn had only been provided to Main Street Organization of Realtors members for about 2 weeks prior to this situation happening. This agent had never actually activated her forewarn account, therefore never made a search, but she did proceed to do so. This is exactly what that agent saw. This is that man's actual criminal record information. So, as you see, 74 possible criminal records. You have violent sex offender, child sex offender, battery, bad check, theft, assault, and unfortunately, the list does go on. Thankfully, though, this agent was able to see this criminal record information ahead of time and, of course, proceeded to change that situation for her safety. Continuing on further with criminal history, we like to provide you an overabundance of information, and what that looks like is when looking at criminal record information, you will see a stronger match section, a weaker match section, and a match key. The stronger match section means a higher confidence match because most, if not all, the information is a match, and the public record has enough detail to allow us to express confidence in that match. As you see on the screen in the example, the match key has a list of details, and the amount of details checked off also reflects back into our confidence in matching the criminal record information to the prospect. The list in the example is fully checked off. You see first name, last name, middle initial, birthday, address, state, proximity. This is typically seen in the stronger match or high confidence section. Now, the weaker match section is considered lower confidence because only some of the prospect's information is a match, or the public record is missing details, resulting in a decreased confidence in the match. The match key typically seen in the weaker match section will often be missing check marks on the details list, helping to show where the confidence is lacking in that match. That being said, those weaker matches still belong to someone. We just couldn't confidently say it's a match to your particular prospect. But someone with similar information to them does have this criminal record information in their history, so just keep that in mind. We give you this extra information to provide extra background knowledge for you to make the best educated decisions for yourself, for your safety, and for your comfort level. So you may consider reviewing the provided match keys and both match sections when looking over a potential client's criminal record information. Just some more questions to ask yourselves when you're forewarning your potential clients. Are they who they say they are? Are they being truthful? Are there potential obstacles to be addressed before showing them property? Are they the owner of the property they say they are selling? Again, how would you know? Now having access to forewarn, you can know these items ahead of time. As with everything, we do have rules of engagement, terms and conditions we do expect everyone to abide by. I will be very transparent with you and inform you that we do have auditors monitoring accounts at all times. So if you do misuse your account and misuse the FOREWARN system, you will be shut down. You will no longer have access to FOREWARN. Also, I like to note that I will just be highlighting the main points of our terms and conditions list for you on this training. You can, of course, review the full terms and conditions list on our website at forewarn.com, or if you have not activated your account yet, you do have to read through and accept our full terms and conditions list before you can activate your account and begin using it. First is going to be, do not use FOREWARN to search for anyone who is not engaging in business with you, including but not limited to celebrities, public figures, athletes, politicians, friends, family. Do not share information from FOREWARN or your FOREWARN access credentials with any third party, and do not publicly post such information. This is for your eyes only. We do ask and expect that you handle all this information with the same amount of confidentiality as you do everything in the real estate industry. You are state licensed professionals. That is why you do get access to FOREWARN. So, of course, handle the information professionally. Also, do not tell a prospect that they are not permitted or unqualified to purchase or sell property because of information you obtained from FOREWARN. I also like to reiterate here that we are not advising you to not work with a prospect because of what you find out about them from FOREWARN. We again simply just want to provide you as much information as we can to help you have the background knowledge to make the best educated decisions for yourself, for your safety, and for your comfort level. But it is always the agent's decision at the end of the day how they choose to move forward working with a potential client. Lastly, don't be selective. Use it the same for everyone. Again, if your association or MLS is providing FOREWARN complimentary to you, then you may consider utilizing it by forewarning every incoming lead, every potential client, every referral, etc., to help verify their identity and help keep you safe. Also, to refer back to the previous example with the Illinois agent, she most likely never would have known that man's history had she not forewarned him ahead of time. Most likely, she never would have known he was potentially dangerous or potentially harmful for her to be meeting, especially alone that night. So it really just goes to show you, you can never be too sure or too safe. So forewarn everyone the same in your real estate businesses. And of course, it is best practice. Now we are going to briefly address any fair housing concerns an agent may have using the FOREWARN system. FOREWARN never displays information concerning anyone's race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, or other protected class information. This is to help prevent unlawful discrimination. You should always comply with applicable laws and your professional code of ethics, as well as the guidance provided to you by your association or MLS to ensure that you are helping provide an equal housing opportunity for everyone. Here are some ways you may consider to use FOREWARN to benefit your real estate businesses. Calls on your listings, vet prospective buyers before showings. What if they're a career criminal and they want a tour of your listing to case the place and rob it later? Unfortunately, it does happen. Now you can forewarn them ahead of time, look for any red flags, handle those situations diligently. Also, financial risks, bankruptcies, liens, judgments, etc. Just knowing these things ahead of time. Sellers calling to list, first and foremost, help verify their identity, help make sure they're safe for you to be working with, but also help verify liens, judgments, property ownership, and equity to prevent delays down the road that could have been resolved ahead of listing the property. Buyers verify criminal history, judgment, bankruptcy history. Just some examples to go along with these for you would be if you have a buyer who is looking in a condo association, but you also know they have a felony in their background or they're a sexual offender. Condo associations are very strict with who they approve, and most likely that situation in the example wouldn't work out for this particular buyer. However, it's really just about knowing this information ahead of time so you can educate your buyer, walk them through the proper steps, and find the best fit for them while saving your time and their time in the process. Another example, sexual offenders cannot live certain distances from schools. Again, know this information ahead of time so you can educate your buyer, walk them through the proper steps, and find the best fit for them that abides by the rules and regulations they do have to follow. And again, save your time and their time in the process. Bankruptcy. A lot of buyers don't know that bankruptcy has to be a certain number of years in the past to qualify. So again, know this information ahead of time so you can educate them, walk them through the proper steps, and get them the proper help. So if they're not able to qualify now, when they are able to qualify in the future, you will have already built up a relationship with them. You can pick back up where you left off and save your time and their time in the process. Out-of-state callers and missed calls. I personally am also an agent, and I will admit that I am guilty of rarely ever answering out-of-state calls because typically, in my experience, they are mostly sales calls, spam calls, extended warranty calls, robocalls, etc. So now you can forward the phone numbers. You can see who was a legitimate person calling you, perhaps on a listing of yours. Of course, do proper follow-up with those legitimate people. However, you can also forward the phone numbers and see who is not a legitimate person calling you, and you don't have to waste your time calling those phone numbers back if you choose not to. Open house sign-in is another great example and use of FOREWARN for safety purposes. You may consider only doing open houses with 2 or more agents present at the open house for the purpose of one agent may be giving tours of the property, while the other agent may be forewarning the sign-in sheet, helping to see that everyone who is entering the property is safe to be entering the property, looking for yellow flags or red flags. With this example, you may also consider having the agents providing the open house together to implement code words ahead of time. So if there ever is a yellow or red flag, they have code words in place already to say to one another and make each other aware of the situation discreetly. Also, you may consider going a step further and having various plans in place for different situations, scenarios. So should an agent ever have to say a code word to the other, they have plans in place ready to be implemented as well. Also, just helping with overall agent safety. Vetting leads coming from third parties such as referrals, landing pages, social media, websites, Zillow, etc. It simply goes back to you never truly know a prospect's history. You can never be too sure or too safe. So forewarn everyone the same in your real estate businesses. And of course, it is best practice. Verifying land sales. Unfortunately, recently we have heard of many instances where scammers are trying to pose as property owners, attempting to illegally sell the property and make off with the cash. So now you may consider forewarning them ahead of time to help verify the property owners are who they say they are, help verify the property is in their property records, and help verify that the phone numbers are matching up to who they're supposed to match up with. Ultimately, helping to find any red flags or discrepancies. And if you do find any red flags or discrepancies, consider doing further follow-up, doing further research. But ultimately, hopefully, FOREWARN can help prevent these harmful situations from happening in your real estate businesses. As I previously stated, you do have complimentary accounts waiting for you to be activated, so you can either scan the QR code on the screen or go to the forewarn.com/member setup website. It will take you to the same page, and that looks like this. Once you have reached this account activation webpage, you will want to input your email that your association or MLS has on file for you in the FOREWARN box provided. Once you submit your email and it has been accepted, you will then receive a confirmation code and a confirmation email from FOREWARN to create the password for your account. Once you've created the password for your account and you've submitted it, it's been accepted, then your account will be active and you can begin using it by either downloading our app onto your phone, logging in there, or you can simply go to forewarn.com in your web browser, logging in there as well. I do like to reiterate that once you have activated your account successfully, your username will then be your email. Your password will then be whatever you created it to be as you walked through these couple steps. Also, I like to note that if you try submitting your email in the provided box and you receive a notice saying email does not exist or something similar, that typically means the email you are trying to use does not match the email on file with your association or your MLS. So if you do experience this, we encourage you to go to your association or your MLS and make sure all your information is up to date with them, your email, your cell phone number, etc. So we can help ensure your FOREWARN account has the proper information to help you have a smooth activation process. If you do have any issues or questions, please feel free to reach out to support@forewarn.com. We are happy to help you with anything you need and get your questions answered. I do want to thank you for joining this FOREWARN training and taking the time, and I do hope you enjoy your FOREWARN account.